Now we stay on this topic. The Israeli military has reported that 700,000 Palestinians have fled Gaza City towards the southern Gaza Strip since late August, amid a large-scale air and ground offensive aimed at rooting out Hamas. The UN's humanitarian agency OCHA has recorded nearly 388,400 displacement movements from Gaza City, which had around 1 million residents at the end of August. On Thursday, Gaza's civil defense operating from under Hamas has reported that 22 deaths across the territory from Israeli strikes were reported, including an airstrike on a home sheltering displaced people in central Gaza that has killed 11 people. Meanwhile, residents of al-Zawaida camp described devastation and pleaded for the war to end, calling the situation an extermination since the war began after Hamas's October 7, 2023 attack on Israel. UN estimates that over 65,500 Palestinians have been killed, mostly civilians. Now we move on to our next news. Slovenia has imposed a travel ban on Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, becoming the first EU country to take such action. This follows a July decision that came earlier this year to bar two far-right Israeli ministers, Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, over alleged human rights violations against Palestinians. Slovenia, which officially recognized the Palestinian state last year, had already imposed an arms embargo and banned imports from Israeli-held territories in August. The Slovenian government had earlier accused the far-right Israeli ministers of inciting extreme violence, advocating illegal West Bank settlements, and supporting forced evictions of Palestinians. Both ministers, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, are critical coalition partners for Benjamin Netanyahu, who relies on their support to maintain his government. Meanwhile, Israel has not responded to Slovenia's actions and continues to expand its ground offensive in Gaza Strip. Now we move on to our next news. A Russian attack on critical infrastructure in Ukraine's Chernihiv region has left 30,000 people without power. Local officials say the strike targeted key energy facilities, disrupting electricity supplies across the area. Meanwhile, NATO chief Mark Rutte has called recent drone flights over Denmark's airports a serious threat. On a post on X, he has said that he spoke with Denmark's prime minister and that NATO is working closely with Copenhagen to protect critical infrastructure. German Chancellor Merz has further also responded to repeated airspace violations, warning that Germany will not tolerate such attacks and will take all necessary measures to ensure effective deterrence. Officials in Ukraine continue working to restore power in Chernihiv amid fears of more strikes on civilian infrastructure. Now for this discussion, we are joined by Sander van Hoorn. He's a former EU correspondent, joins us live from Berlin. Thank you very much, Sander, for joining us. Welcome to NewsX World. Now, how are these drone incidents very recent, as well as cyber attacks, particularly with the timing and proximity to these busy shipping routes and airports and busy airports in Nordic, can it be interpreted as part of a broader strategy of hybrid warfare aimed at destabilizing European countries?
Well, right now it depends who you ask, because the Danish police officially has not linked the most recent incidents to Russia. They say it's professional, they say it's an attack, but they cannot prove an involvement of Russia. So that's still part of the investigation. Others, however, do exactly like you did. They point to the a string of incidents and say there can only be one actor behind this. However, whoever is behind the most recent attacks in Denmark, it proves that most European countries are ill-equipped to detect and defend against drones. And that's something that is a big debate right now anyway, regardless of who is behind it.
And Sander, given the ongoing investigation and also rejection by Russia taking responsibility of these actions, what are the likely steps that European authorities and NATO authorities, agencies will take to address these drone incursions? And you said that they are ill-equipped, so what do you think that they will need to do to prevent future occurrences?
Well, those are a couple of questions in one go. Let me start by answering the last one. Well, there are systems, space-based but also land-based, that are better equipped to detect drones than regular radar, because radar tends to not look at low-flying objects, and you can make a drone fly very low. Speculation now regarding Denmark is that they may have been launched from a ship, for example, off the coast of Denmark and then fly low over the water towards, in this case, airports. But those systems are not like everywhere. I know Schiphol Airport in the Netherlands, for example, has a system that is traditionally used to detect birds, but it also can be used to detect drones. But those systems are not like widely used, so there will be talk about that. There will be talk about eventually, when you track them, shooting down drones, regardless of who sent them. But then the way it has been done now, or at least how they have been scared off, for example, over Poland, is by using F-35 fighter aircraft. And that is a very expensive way. Now, for example, in Ukraine, they use drones to attack drones. Those are systems that are not in place inside of Europe. So there will be talk about that, for example, tomorrow, when the EU Council is meeting on exactly this subject. And the European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, has said that she wants a wall against drones in the eastern part of the European Union. She did not specify what that wall might look like or what is needed to build it, but that are subjects that are going to be discussed in the coming weeks inside of the European Union.
Right. With that, I would like to thank our guest, Sander van Hoorn, for joining us and sharing his insights